Hey everybody, I didn't think I would be participating in this conversation with this topic, but with all the different stories that I've been seeing online, mostly social media, and here on YouTube, I thought maybe I should jump in here for whatever it's worth. Um, Obviously, the big story here is that the Stones are not moving forward with a plan to tour Europe next year in the spring. That's really the only piece of news to report that's verifiable. Everything else, I think, is going through a little bit of 2 plus 2 equals 5 in all the articles and all the commentary I've been seeing on this story. There's only one true source to go by for this story, and I think it is the article from Variety that came out about 3 days ago. And I think the key takeaway phrase here that everyone seems to be discounting a little bit is the fact that the tour is not going forward, mainly because, quote, Keith could not commit to the tour. That phrase, admittedly, very vague, open-ended, but I think is a perfect way to perhaps describe what's going on. It doesn't lean any particular way, but it says that they were not all on the same page regarding next year's tour. The article does attempt to kind of connect the dots a little bit by mentioning Keith's issue with arthritis. And I personally think people are taking that and really running with it as the main culprit for this situation. Keith admits that there is an issue with arthritis, quote, a benign version of arthritis. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing in the evidence looks to me that it's gotten significantly worse in recent years. Take a look at Keith playing at a charity event in New York. Okay, obviously playing two songs is not in any way comparable to playing 2 hours on a 4-month tour. But nevertheless, I don't see a man who is struggling or in pain or wincing when he's playing at all. Again, the idea that arthritis is the main driver here, I think, misplaces what may be really going on. Let's then take a look at how Keith was playing last year during the Stones tour of the U.S. last year during the summer. And again, I don't see a guy who's struggling with arthritis. I don't see him in any kind of discomfort. I don't see him kind of, trying to maneuver through the guitar to make those chords work. None of that. I think his playing has basically plateaued in the same level for the last few tours now. What I think is really happening here, let me put it this way. If the Stones were planning a tour of North America next year, I don't think we would be having this conversation. I don't think there would be a story to report. This is Keith's neighborhood. He lives in the U.S. I think an idea of being away from home for 4 months, hung up in a hotel in between shows, sometimes as much as 3 or 4 days in between shows, may not be as appealing as it once was for Keith. People are painting it that, Keith has had enough and he's ready to hang it up and all this stuff. And my point of view is that, he's had many addictions in his life and he's kicked most of them by this point in his life, but I don't think he's quite over yet the high of being on stage with his pals, the rest of the band. And I think that's still in there. So what I personally think happened is that when the Stones got together recently to discuss next year's plans, Keith may have voiced these concerns that, hey, I'm kind of down, but 4 months, really? I don't know. That doesn't sound too fun for me. The point is, they weren't on the same page. And I think they left that meeting at an impasse. I think they realized that they couldn't agree on a plan, on the logistics of what they wanted to do. So they said, you know what? We just can't move forward. We're not on the same page. So let's get back to this later and figure something else out. Could I see Keith wanting to do a shorter type of tour? Yeah, I do. I don't think that lines up with Mick's plan and the Stones Incorporated's plan for how Stones tours work. This kind of opens up a can of worms that can get a little bit convoluted, but in the past, historically, Stones tours are of a certain length and of a certain structure that would be an equal payoff financially, obviously, and time and effort involved for all parties. So they figured out a system that's worked in the last 10 years or so, where this amount of work of rehearsals and prep for the tour and, planning for the tour and the tour itself, they balance each other out. And lately, in the last 5 or 10 years, they've been doing a tour each year of about maybe 20 shows for that leg. And if there was a suggestion of a shorter tour next year of less than 20 or less than 15, that puts an imbalance on how much money and time they want to invest in that I think definitely didn't line up with how they've been doing things up to this point. So I think they were at a dead end, and they just said, let's come back to this later and figure something else out. What will they figure out? I don't know. I don't know what they could figure out. There would have to be some kind of compromise or another way of doing things. And that's really what I think this part of the story is about, is that the Stones are entering, this stage of their career now where what has been working up to this point may not work anymore in terms of just, the status quo. We're going to do 20 shows on this tour, and then next year we'll do 20 again. That seems to be up for now an update. It's time to recalibrate things to match where they are now. And so personally, that's, I think, where they are. I think knowing Mick, he wants to give the situation some distance and want to come back to it later with a clear head, with some distance between himself and situation. And, we'll see what happens. So do I think that the Stones are over? No, I don't think the Stones see it that way either. It's more like, oh, damn, we got to figure some stuff out. There was a quote in the Variety article that I think was very promising. There was a quote from an unnamed spokesperson from the band, apparently, who had said that, admitted that, yes, there was a plan for a tour that wasn't going to go forward, but the Stones will be back on stage when they're good and ready. I think that was a great way to end the article, and I think it's a great way to see the situation. So will they come out of this with a solution? Let's hope to God that they do. So that's all I have. I'm sorry I don't have any insider info about the situation. All I can do as a Stones fan is make my guesses based on what I know of the band and what they've done in the past. And that's what I think is going on right now. So are the Stones, or at least their touring career, completely over? I think it's absolutely ridiculous to make any call right now about it. Yes, I know everyone's using the cliche, time is not on their side and all that bullshit. But I don't think it's our place to call it or make an assumption about what's going to happen. That's not their style either. I think we should take their lead here in how they see things, which is, don't make a big fucking deal about it. We had plans to do something. It didn't work out. There'll be something else down the line that we can figure out. So I think we should take a page from that book and just take the news, take it on the chin. Damn it. Looks like Europe next spring isn't going to happen. Let's hope that something can come together for sometime later in the year. So with that said, I'm afraid to ask, but what do you think is going on? Put it all in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Hangfire.